everyone, welcome back to Biophilia, your all-time study mate. Today we are going to continue with the chapter of Morphology of Flowering Plants with the topic about flowers. If you like our video and get some help, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our amazing channel Biophilia. Today our topic is about flower. फ्लावर जो होता है इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी अ रिप्रोडक्टिव ऑर्गन, यानी जो आगे के जनरेशन में इट इज़ गोइंग टू हेल्प टू फॉर्म न्यू प्लांट्स. सो फ्लावर इज़ गोइंग टू बी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, और यू कैन से इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी अ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फंक्शन ऑफ एंजियोस्पर्म्स. सो जैसे आपने प्लांट किंगडम आगे जाके पढ़ोगे, यू माइट हैव हर्ड अबाउट इट इन प्रीवियस क्लासेस समवेयर, देन यू माइट नो कि जैसे एल्गीज होते हैं या ब्रायोफाइट्स होते हैं, ऑल दीज डू नॉट हैव फ्लावर्स. फ्लावर्स आर ओनली गोइंग टू बी फाउंड इन द केस ऑफ एंजियोस्पर्म्स. और एंजियोस्पर्म्स जैसे यू कैन हैव योर फ्लावरिंग प्लांट्स, रोज हो गया, मैरीगोल्ड हो गया, यू कैन हैव फ्लावर्स ऑफ चिली, you can have flowers of cauliflower, you can have for mango. All these are nothing but going to be the examples of angiosperms. So angiosperms hai, that means these are going to have their reproductive unit as a flower. Now what is a flower exactly? It is going to be a modified shoot. So जैसे इसके पहले हमने वीडियो में कवर किया था about inflorescence. So inflorescence के बारे में अगर आपको और जानकारी चाहिए, then you can always go and click on the link in the description box, and there you can find about inflorescence. So वहाँ पे भी हमने डिस्कस किया था a little bit about flowers. So flowers are going to be a modified shoot which is going to be meant specially for the reproduction, and that too for the sexual reproduction in plants. So flower is going to have 4 whorls, यानी उसके 4 parts होंगे, and these whorls are going to be successively arranged on the thalamus. So thalamus या receptacle जिसे बोलते हैं, all these 4 are going to in a way connect to that particular place. So what is a thalamus now? Thalamus is going to be the swollen end of the peduncle or the stalk. So whatever the stalk you draw before drawing a flower, और ये जो ऐसा bulky substance होगा, this is going to be your thalamus, and over that you will have your petals and you will have your other whorls of the flower. So what is the symmetry of flowers? These are so many beautiful flowers that you can see, but अगर आपने notice किया होगा, then some of the flowers are going to have some or the other type of symmetry. So on the basis of that, you have classified the flowers on the category as actinomorphic, zygomorphic or asymmetric. So for example, you are going to see actinomorphic जहाँ पे होती है radial symmetry. Radial symmetry, you might have also heard it in about animal kingdom. So animal kingdom के भी videos है, and you can go and check those videos in the description box. So animal kingdom में भी हमने cover किया था about radial symmetry. So whenever a flower can be divided into 2 equal halves, you can say you can divide it in various parts, और वो center में से जब pass होके आप divide कर पाओगे, that would be called as an actinomorphic flower. So for example, जैसे आपके पास पिज़्ज़ा है या बर्गर है या you have a cake. So केक या पिज़्ज़ा में अगर आप डिवाइड करना चाहोगे तो you are going to divide those slices, और उसमें कैसे you are going to get all equal parts, all same parts. So that is not going to be a radial symmetry. So even if here you can see the case of radial symmetry in the case of mustard, datura, chili, तो उस केस में भी you can find the flowers to have your radial symmetry. That would give you the flower type that is actinomorphic. Second type जो होता है, it is going to be zygomorphic. Zygomorphic है, that means it is a bilateral symmetry. So bilateral symmetry को समझने के लिए you can consider to have a heart shaped substance. हार्ट शेप सब्सटेंस को अगर आप डिवाइड करना चाहोगे तो हाउ वुड यू डिवाइड? यू विल डिवाइड इट ओनली इन दिस पर्टिकुलर प्लेन, राइट? अगर आप उसे ये प्लेन में डिवाइड करोगे तो वुड यू गेट द एग्जैक्ट सेम रिजल्ट? यू वोंट गेट इट, right? So this plane is not suitable. Only one plane is going to be correct, which is going to give you equal halves, और वो कौन सा होगा? The middle one. So whenever a flower can be divided into two similar halves in only one particular vertical plane is going to be called as a zygomorphic flower. So ऐसे zygomorphic flowers you can find in the case of pea, gulmohar, bean and cassia. So with the help of these beautiful photographs you can visualize how these flowers are going to have various types of symmetry. अब हो सकता है कि कुछ flowers these are very beautiful but still they don't have any symmetry. So जिनके पास कोई symmetry नहीं है those will be called as asymmetric flowers. So these are going to be irregularly symmetric and the flowers will not be able to divide into two similar halves. So आप उन्हें divide नहीं कर पाओगे जिससे आपको दो equal halves मिलेंगे in any sort of plane. So such example can be of canna. So you can see the photograph. It would be very difficult for you or even impossible for you to have the division to get two similar halves. So वैसे flowers को आप categorize करोगे under asymmetric flowers. Now what are the whorls of flowers? जैसे हमने पढ़ा है about parts of leaves या you can say the different types of parts of body. वैसे ही अगर आप whorls of flower चुनोगे so there are going to be 4 whorls of flower. The outermost being the calyx, then corolla, androecium and the innermost being the gynoecium. So यहाँ पे एक एक करके हम उनसे डिटेल में भी पढ़ेंगे but for here you can see the diagram and try to understand about these whorls. So जो calyx whorl होता है, calyx whorl is going to be having its components called as sepals. So sepals जो green colored part होता है, जो leaf like दिखता है, those are going to be called as sepals. And these sepals will be protective in nature. जो bud stage में होता है, जो कलियाँ होती है, कलियाँ कैसी होती है, these are going to be green in color. So जो कलियाँ green दिखती है, that is going to be because of the covering of sepals. फिर second whorl जो होता है, that is corolla. Corolla is going to have petals. So those beautiful colored petals are going to be from the corolla whorl. So very important point to remember over here, that is going to be that calyx and corolla is going to make up the whorls which are considered to be non-essential whorls. So this is a very important point that you need to remember, that these are categorized into non-essential whorls क्योंकि ये जो दो whorls है, that is sepals and petals, these are not involved in reproduction. So जो reproduction में involved नहीं है, so these are considered as non-essential. Whereas if you consider for the whorls of androecium and gynoecium, so androecium जो होता है, it is going to be the male reproductive organ. So male reproductive organ है, so it is going to have components that is called as stamens. So you can see how the stamens are going to be into this particular diagram. So stamens are going to have two major components, that is anther and filament. So we'll discuss it about in detail in few minutes. So androecium होता है the male part comprising of stamens, whereas gynoecium is going to have the female reproductive organ which is going to have components called as pistils. So अभी ये जो reproductive organs है, that is androecium and gynoecium, these two whorls are going to be called as essential whorls because these are going to be the important part for reproductive organ. So flower जैसे reproductive organ है या reproductive unit है, so for that reason these two whorls, that is androecium and gynoecium, are being the essential whorls, whereas your calyx and corolla are going to be non-essential whorls. अभी और एक important point है that I would like to share with you, that is going to be that sometimes there is a chance that calyx and corolla, that is your whorl number 1 plus whorl number 2, is going to get fused. और जब ये fuse हो जाते हैं, you are going to call it as perianth, right? यानी calyx और corolla दोनों mix हो गए, that is sepals and petals are going to mix together, that is non-essential whorls becomes one. In that case it is called as perianth. An example wherein you can find perianth is going to be lily. So lily के case में you can find that calyx and corolla is going to be combined together. So that was the introduction about whorls of flower. Now let's go deep into each of these whorls in detail. So first whorl हम पढ़ेंगे, that is going to be about calyx, also having components called as sepals. So this calyx whorl is going to be the outermost whorl of the flower, and the members are going to be called as sepals. So I have already introduced to you the members, that is sepals. So these sepals are nothing but going to be leaf-like structures. So if you can notice over here in the photograph, ये जो green colored part होगा, that is going to make up your sepals, whereas the colored part, that is you can have different colors, you can have white, red, pink, yellow, orange, anyway. Here you have the petals to be in white, whereas sepals to be in green. So sepals जो होंगे, these are going to be leaf-like structures which are going to be majorly functioning for protection in the bud stage. So जो कलियाँ होती है, कलियाँ नाजुक होती है, they have not bloomed. So during that stage, the sepals are going to protect the flower. So calyx जो होता है, it can be gamosepalous or it can be polysepalous. Gamosepalous है, that means whatever the sepals are going to be, that is the members of the calyx are going to be united. वो fixed होंगे, or you can say these are going to be connected to each other. So you can see that in the case of shoe flower, or you can say in the case of hibiscus. So hibiscus flower may, or you can say it is also called as China rose. So China rose, shoe flower or hibiscus के case में you can find such sepals which are going to be united and called as gamosepalous. So you can see up here in the photograph as well that these particular sepals are going to be fused, these are going to be united at the lower part. फिर पॉलीसेपैलस जो होते हैं, these are going to be free sepals, यानी सारे members अलग अलग होंगे. So you can see that in the case of rose. So rose के case में you can find the sepals to be free, and those will be called as polysepalous. So here in the photograph also you can try to understand how the sepals are going to be free from each other. वो यहाँ का जो distance है, that is going to make them free. So that is polysepalous. The second whorl of the flower is going to be comprising of corolla. So corolla में members जो होंगे, these are called as petals, and corolla is going to be the second whorl of the flower. So generally जो corolla whorl होता है और the petals, these petals are going to be brightly colored. These are going to be very fragrant, यानी जो फूलों में जो खुशबू आती है, वो खुशबू कहाँ से आएगी? That is going to be because of the petals. So petals are going to be very much fragrant. These are going to be brightly colored, and this all reason, that is brightly colored and fragranced, is going to be for the purpose of attraction. और attraction क्यों करना है? For the pollinators to perform pollination. So pollination हो, यानी male pollens should go and reach the female in the case of plants which are going to go for cross pollination. So उस सब चीज़ों के लिए to लालच देने के लिए for the pollinators, जैसे honey bees हो गए या insects हो गए या even humans in some cases. So all for that reasons, for the pollination, these flowers are going to have petals to be very brightly colored as well as फ्रेगनेंस. सो आपने भी बहुत बार सोचा होगा कि अगर फूल बहुत खूबसूरत नहीं दिख रहा है या उसकी खुशबू नहीं है, तो यू डोंट choose those flowers. So even humans have tendency to choose flowers which are going to look very beautiful, those who are going to be very brightly colored and that have a very good fragrance. So all that is nothing but for the attraction purpose. So petals जो होते हैं, they can be in various sizes, they can be in various shapes, they can be of tubular shape, they can be bell shaped, funnel shaped, wheel shaped, any shape that you can think of, you can have them in nature. So corolla जो होता है, you can see in the photographs as well the different types of petals. You can also go and take a round during your free time. अगर आपको बोर हो रहा हो, आप जाके you can go and search in nature about different types of petals that you can find, and that would give you pleasure, as well as you would in a way try to connect your subject to your daily routine. So उस हिसाब से if you can go and find out, you will see that the petals are going to be of two types majorly. First of all, they can be gamopetales. So gamo word जहाँ पे भी आता है, it is going to be related to unison. So united अगर है, that is you can say कि gamo sepals होगा, तो sepals are going to be fused, but it is gamopetales, that means they are going to unite, these are going to be fused, and those types of particular petals are going to be found in the case of a bindweed flower. So bindweed flower, you can see up here in the particular photograph, this is going to be a bindweed flower which is going to have fused petals. उसके petals आप differentiate नहीं कर पाओगे, these all are going to be fused. Whereas if you can see that the petals which are free, those are going to be called as polypetales. अब free है, सब अलग अलग दिखेंगे तो लगेगा कि ज़्यादा petals है. So ज़्यादा petals है, many is going to be the word for poly. So you can remember like that. अगर ज़्यादा petals दिख रहे हैं, you say these are poly, and poly ज़्यादा है, many है, that means polypetales. Condition can be found in the case of rose, or you can also see that in the case of periwinkle flower. So periwinkle flower भी बहुत easily you can see periwinkle flowers in the pink color, purple color, white color. So here also we have a photograph of periwinkle flower wherein you can see that all the petals are going to be separated, उनके बीच में gap होगी, और ये gap की वजह से ही these are going to be called as polypetalous flowers. So that was about the second world of the flower. Now we are going to see a very interesting topic about sepals of petals. So जिस हिसाब से वो अपने आप को arrange करेंगे, the mode of arrangement of these sepals and petals is going to be called as estivation. So based on that, you are going to have four categories. First one being violet, second as twisted, third is imbricate, and fourth is waxillary. So first one, that is violet, is going to have the petals or sepals to be on the margin of each other, and they will just touch each other. उनके जो margins होगी वो सिर्फ touch करेंगे, they won't overlap, and that can be seen in the case of flowers of calotropis. So calotropis flowers जो होते हैं, so these are the flowers that generally हनुमान जी को चढ़ाया जाता है. So हनुमान जी को जो flowers चढ़ाए जाते हैं, these are going to belong from the calotropis plant, and these are going to be categorized as violet estivation. So if you can see here, the petals are going to be just touching each other, but they won't overlap each other. So if you want to show them in diagrammatic representation, then this is going to be your diagrammatic representation for violet estivation. Second one is going to be twisted. Twisted है यानी उनके जो margins होंगे, that is for sepals or petals, they will just successively overlap each other. वो अपने आप को क्या करेंगे, वो उन्हें overlap करेंगे. अगर सिर्फ touch कर रहे हैं, then it is violet. If they are overlapping successively, or you can say alternately, then that is going to be categorized into twisted estivation. That you can find in the case of China rose यानी hibiscus में मिलेगा, आपको lady finger या cotton के flowers में भी मिल सकता है. So generally you can see the hibiscus flower, you can get it very easily, and you can notice the twisted conditions of petals as well as sepals. So for diagrammatic representation, you can find this particular image to be helpful to represent it. So here also you can see आपने कैसे diagram बनाया है, you can see the difference between it. This is going to be just touching each other. राइट, वो सिर्फ टच कर रहा है, उनके बीच में गैप है. whereas if you know appreciate this second twisted diagram, वहाँ पे क्या होगा, there is going to be overlapping condition, and that overlapping is nothing but considered as a twisted activation. So the third one is going to be about imbricate. Imbricate जो है वहाँ पे margins of sepals or petals is going to overlap, but overlapping भी कैसी होगी, not in a particular specific direction. अगर वो successively overlap कर रहे हैं, alternately overlap कर रहे हैं, then that fine you will have it in the case of twisted estivation. But if you are going to have them in the case of imbricate, then उसके केस में क्या होगा, कोई particular direction में twisting नहीं होगी, and that can be seen in the case of cassia and गुलमोहर. So अगर आप diagrammatic representation को अगर आप अच्छे से देखोगे, so alternately these are going to be overlapped. but अगर आपने imbricate के केस में notice किया, then these are not going to be alternately twisted or alternately overlapped. The last one is going to be maxillary. So maxillary में क्या होगा, these are completely different flowers. In here you are going to have a largest petal, which is going to be a big size petal, which is called as standard. So standard petal या जो big size petal होगा, वो दूसरे दो छोटे छोटे lateral petals को cover करेगा, called as wings. So first type होता है that is standard or the largest petal. The second type of petals can be found, that is two smaller lateral petals called as wings. And finally the third type of petals, which are going to be the smallest petals, which are called as keel. So this is going to be a very important question to be asked, that is going to be what sort of petals are called. जैसे standard हो गया, wings हो गए, and the keel. So that is going to help you to score marks. So that is going to be your thing to remember. जैसे standard किसे बोलते हैं, standard बोलते हैं the largest petal को, smallest petals को क्या बोलते हैं, keel बोलते हैं, and the lateral petals are called as wings. So here you can see in the case of pea flower that the largest one, so जो सबसे बड़ा आपको यहाँ पे दिख रहा है, that is going to be nothing but the standard petal. और standard petal किसे overlap करेगा, two smaller lateral wings, and it will ultimately overlap the smallest petals as well. So उसको diagrammatically आप कैसे represent करोगे, you can see up here in the diagram. So यहाँ पे जो सबसे बड़ा है, that is going to be your standard, two lateral ones are going to be your keel, two laterals are wings, and the two smallest ones are going to be your keel. So that makes up the maxillary aestivation. The third whorl is going to be about the androecium, which is going to constitute the male reproductive system, which is going to have the members that are called as stamens. So stamens के पास होता है filament and anther. So you can see in the particular diagram as well, the anther is going to be present at the top, which is going to be bilobed. Bilobed है. So you can see up here how the two lobes are going to be seen. So that makes the anther to be bilobed, and each lobe is going to consist of two microsporangia. So finally you can say that all the anthers are going to have in total 4 microsporangias. कितने microsporangias होंगे? You are going to have 4 microsporangias in one anther. So if you can notice over here, the cross section of your anther is going to look somewhat like this. So bilobed hai, so it will be like this, and in between you are going to have 4 microsporangias. So ये green color में जो होगा, these green colored ones are going to represent the microsporangias, and the outer layer is going to show you about the cross section walls of anther. So that will help you to remember about that microsporangias are going to be diploid in condition. अब ये microsporangia में जब meiosis होगा, तब what is going to occur? That is going to lead to haploid pollen grains. So जो microsporangias होते हैं, these are called as pollen sacs because इनके अंदर बहुत सारे pollen grains मिलते हैं. So these pollen grains are then used as male reproductive gamete. So these pollen sacs will be present inside the anther. So जो sterile stamen होता है जहाँ पे कोई there is no formation of pollen grains, such sterile stamens are going to be called as staminode, right? So this is also going to be a very important MCQ कि sterile stamen को क्या बोलते हैं. So sterile stamen is going to be called as a staminode. So that was about the androecium. Now androeciums में जो stamens होते हैं, the stamens are going to be of two types. So if they are attached, then you are going to call it as adhesion of stamens. Adhesion यानी adhesives जो होते हैं. Adhesives कौन होते हैं? Adhesives are going to be substances which are going to act like glue. So glue क्या होता है? Glue adhesive होता है. So as you are going to stick something, that is these are going to remain attached to a petal, then it is called as epipetalis. Okay, epipetalis types of stamens are going to be seen in the case of brinjal. So you can see in the photograph as well how the particular adhesion of stamens can be seen with the case of petals. और फिर जो stamens अगर attach होते हैं तो perianth. So let's revise what was perianth. I had told you perianth जो होता है, it is going to be the fusion of two whorls. कौन से दो whorls होते हैं? The whorls that is called as calyx and corolla. So calyx और corolla जब fuse हो जाते हैं, you are going to call it as a perianth. So when the stamen is going to attach itself to perianth, it is going to be called as epiphyllous. So epiphyllous condition you are going to see in the case of lily. Now the second type is going to be cohesion of stamens. Cohesion of stamens जो होता है, it is going to be the condition wherein the stamens can be free to each other. If they are free, then these will be called as polyandrous. If the stamens are going to unite in a single bundle, very important to remember, it is a single bundle, एक ही bundle में है, then you are going to call it as monoadelphous. Monoadelphous is going to be seen in the case of China rose. So China rose को hibiscus भी बोलते हैं. So if you can see this particular flower, you will notice that all the stamens or all the filaments are going to stick to each other. These are going to unite to each other. और सिर्फ yellow colored pollen grains can be seen below the at the ends of the particular flower. So वो type का जो flower है, you can see the monodelphous condition. If the stamens are going to unite and these will form two bundles, एक bundle है तो it is monoadelphous in the China rose. If it is forming two bundles, then you are going to call it as diadelphous. Diadelphous, that means in the case of peas. Peas के केस में क्या होता है, ये जो two bundles बनेंगे, these two bundles are going to have in total 10 stamens. So there will be a condition that is 9 will be fused, whereas 1 will be free stamen. So 9 fused plus 1 free is going to make up completely two bundles. So you can see in the case of P over here that यहाँ पे एक फ्री है और ये बाकी के जो है वो 9 फ्यूज्ड होंगे. and how the fusion is going to occur you can see very well in this particular photograph. So the last one is going to be that more than 2 bundles are going to be formed. अगर 2 से ज़्यादा bundles form होते हैं, then you are going to see that it is going to be a polyadelphous condition. So polyadelphous condition जो होता है, you can see in the case of citrus. So that was about the adhesion and the cohesion of stamens. The last whorl or the innermost whorl of the flower is going to be gynoecium. So gynoecium जो होता है, it is going to be a female reproductive part of the flower, and the members are going to be called as carpels. So carpels can be free. अगर वो free है, then you are going to see them in the case of lotus. If they are going to be free, उनको आप बोलते हो apocarpus. So lotus है या rose है, you can find them free. But if the carpels are going to be fused, अगर वो free है तो apocarpus, fused है then you are going to call it as syncarpus, which can be seen in the case of mustard, tulip and tomato. So rose or lotus के लिए you will call them apocarpus, whereas in the case of mustard, tulip and tomato you will call them syncarpus. So what are the parts of carpel? Carpel में there are three major parts. So first one is going to be the ovary. Ovary is going to be the lowermost part of the carpel and it is going to be basal क्योंकि वो सबसे lowermost पे होगा. It will be swollen and it is also going to have ovules. So ये जो ovules होते हैं, after fertilization ovules are going to turn into seeds. So watermelon के बीज जो होते हैं या muskmelon के बीज होते हैं या whatever the seeds that you are going to have, these are nothing but the ovules which are going to be found inside the ovary. So these ovules are going to attach to a cushion-like structure that is called as placenta. So placenta से the entire nutrition for this particular ovules is going to be supplied, and that is the location called as placenta. Second part आता है that is called as style. So style is going to be a tube-like structure जो connect करेगा the stigma or you can say the landing platform to the ovaries. So यहाँ पे अगर आप notice करोगे the diagram, the ovary being the basal oval swollen part having ovules inside it. So यहाँ पे जो round है वो सब क्या है? That is going to be the ovules, and in the center here, which I am trying to highlight with the blue color, that is going to be nothing but a part of placenta. So from there the ovules are going to attach to the placenta. फिर जो उसके ऊपर जो ट्यूब होगी, द कनेक्शन पार्ट बिटवीन ओवरीज एंड द स्टिग्मा इज गोइंग टू बी द स्टाइल. सो स्टाइल जो होगी वो कनेक्शन के तरह काम करेगी. अदर मेजर फंक्शन इज नॉट फाउंड फॉर इट. The third is going to be the stigma, which is generally situated at the tip of the style, and it will act as a receptive organ. Receptive organ because वहाँ पे pollen grains आके बैठेंगे during the pollination. So stigma can also be called as a landing platform. So landing platform because जैसे हेलीकॉप्टर हेलीपैड पे जाके उतरता है, वैसे pollen grains are going to be deposited onto this particular stigma. So different pollen grains आएंगे और वो आके सारे बैठेंगे कहाँ पे? All these are going to settle out onto the stigma. कि जो भी insects आएंगे, for example honey bee आ गई, so all those honey bees are also going to come and sit onto this particular stigma, and then these will deposit the pollen grains. So these were the three parts of the carpel. Now जो हमें ovules पढ़े that are going to be present in the ovary, the arrangement of ovules. So you can write down what is placentation. Placentation is going to be arrangement of ovules onto the placenta is going to be called as placentation, right? So you can note down the definition of placentation. So based on वो कैसे arranged है, you are going to call them as marginal, axial or different types that we are going to study in few minutes. So the first one is going to be marginal. So marginal नाम से आपको क्या याद आता है? That it is going to be present along a margin. वो margin पे होगा और margin किसकी? तो of the placenta. So placenta एक ridge बनाएगा और ridge के आसपास these ovules are going to be originating in the two alternate rows. So for example you can see in the case of peas, so सबने मटर छीले होंगे once or the while. सो मटर छीलते टाइम इफ़ यू माइट हैव नोटिस्ड, जो सारे मटर होंगे वो कहाँ पे प्रेजेंट होंगे? दीज विल बी प्रेजेंट ऑन द इनर पार्ट ऑफ द पॉड ऑफ द पी. सो पॉड ऑफ द पी के जो इनर साइड पे अटैच्ड होते हैं मटर के दाने, दैट इज गोइंग टू बी नथिंग बट कॉल्ड एज अ मार्जिनल प्लासेंटेशन. सो अगर आपने और गहराई से नोटिस किया होगा, देन यू माइट हैव सीन दैट ऑल द पीज आर नॉट गोइंग टू बी ऑन द सेम पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट. अगर आपका पॉड, अगर यू नो दिस इज योर पॉड लाइक दिस, तो ये पॉड के आसपास वन मटर विल बी हियर, second will be somewhat lower to it और alternately arranged होंगे. So these will not be present कि एक यहाँ पे है और एक यहाँ पे है, आमने सामने नहीं होंगे. Those will be alternating each other. So such type of placentation that is found in peas is going to be called as marginal placentation. Second one is going to be the axial placentation, which is going to tell you कि axial position पे होगा. Axial position कौन सी होती है? That means these are going to arrange themselves into a multilocular ovary. So अगर आपने किसी भी टाइम पे लेमन को काटा है, यानी नींबू को काटा है, नींबू पानी बनाया होगा, so might have cut lemon. So lemon को कट किया होगा, या very easily you can see this in the case of tomato as well. So tomato, when you slice it for making salads or any way you eat it, so उस टाइम पे if you can see that these tomatoes are going to have their placenta over here. So the little white portion that you can see in the center is going to make up the placenta. And वहाँ पे placenta के आसपास you are going to see some fleshy substance that you generally cut it, तो वो squishy होता है, mushy होता है. That is going to be the ovules. So those seeds of tomato is going to be the ovules, and these ovules are going to get arranged into the axial placentation. So axial placentation का अगर diagram पूछा, so you can draw this type of diagram which you can consider for the axial placentation. The third one is going to be a parietal placentation, wherein the ovary is going to have one chamber, और ये chamber दो जैसे लगने लगेगा, because there is going to be a false septum. यानी वो originally वहाँ पे कोई division नहीं है, but it seems to be divided into many chambers. So in such cases the ovules are going to develop onto the inner wall of the ovary, or they can grow onto the peripheral part of the ovary. So such can be seen in the case of mustard or argemone. या आपने अगर मस्क मेलन भी काटा होगा, तो मस्क मेलन काटने पे भी you can see such type of parietal placentation. So parietal placentation के लिए diagram, you can draw such diagram. So you can also rewind a video for few seconds and you can try to differentiate between the placentation for parietal and axial. So axial और parietal का difference you always should remember. अगर आपको ये कर दिया, डायग्राम बता के आइडेंटिफाई करने बोला, so you should know the difference between parietal and axial placentation. So go through the video once again and try to remember the difference between the two. The fourth placentation type is going to be free central placentation. So free central है, नाम से you can guess how the ovules are going to be arranged. These are going to be free, यानी वहाँ पे कोई septum नहीं होगा और there is no such division, and they will be in the central part or the center of the ovary. So these ovules are going to be on the central axis and there is no septa. That is the reason these are called as free. So such can be in the case of primrose and dianthus. So diagram यहाँ पे है, you can go through the diagrams because sometimes questions are going to come on the diagrams. आपको डायग्राम दे दिया जाएगा and you would be asked to identify the type of placentation. So for such MCQ types of diagram types, you need to remember these diagrams that are present in the NCERT. So the last type of placentation is going to include, that is basal placentation. So basal नाम कहाँ आता है? When there is relation to the base. So such placenta will be developed at the base of the ovary, and a single ovule. Very important to remember, there will be a single ovule which will be attached to the placenta, and that can be seen in the case of sunflower as well as marigold. So sunflower seeds जो होते हैं जहाँ से sunflower oil निकाला जाता है, such seeds are going to have the basal placentation. So that makes up to the end of the placentation types. The last one we are going to see, that is position of the floral parts of the thalamus. So अभी तक हमने जो whorls पढ़े, so the 4 whorls that we studied, those 4 whorls, how these are going to actually arrange themselves, उसके basis पे you are going to classify them as hypogynous or perigynous and the epigynous. So first is going to be hypogynous. Hypogynous condition में क्या होता है, the flower which is going to be called as hypogynous flower, उस केस में gynoecium यानी जो female whorl होगा, that is going to occupy the highest position, वो सबसे ऊपर रहेगा, and other parts, other whorls, that is calyx, corolla and the androecium, that is going to situate below the gynoecium. So ovary ऊपर होगी और बाकी के सारे whorls नीचे से originate होंगे. In such case where the ovary is going to be superior, यानी gynoecium will be at the highest position. Such can be seen in the case of mustard, China rose and petunia. So अगर आपको ऐसे examples को याद करना है, then you can remember it as a trick, that is hypo China का super must brand. So hypo China का super must brand. So try to remember this like that. Say for example, hypo is going to give you for the hypogynous, China is for China rose, then super, that means the ovary is going to be superior, must is for mustard, and then the super must brand, so brand के लिए you can just remember as petunia. So that is a little trick that can help you to remember about the examples. Second one जो है, that is the perigynous. Perigynous जो है, wherein the flower is going to have the gynoecium which will be situated in the center, and others will form at the rim at same level as that of ovary. So same level of ovary पे है, that means the ovary is going to be half inferior. So such can be seen in the case of plum, rose and peach. So for this also you can have a trick, that can be peri ने plum को half pitch पे rose दिया. So peri ने plum को half pitch पे. So let me write it down so that it would be easier for you to understand. So half pitch पे rose दिया. So you can remember it as peri is for perigynous, plum is the example of the perigynous flowers, half is going to be your representation for that the ovary is going to be half inferior, pitch is going to be for peach, and rose is another example. So if you remember such little tricks or sentences जहाँ पे आपके examples और major points cover हो जाते हैं, that would help you in the case of revision. So that was a little trick that can help you to remember these particular examples with their ovary positions. The last one is going to be epigynous. Epigynous है, epi means the flower is going to have its thalamus growing upwards, और वो इतना उग जाएगा कि वो completely enclose कर लेगा ovary को, and it will fuse such that the ovary becomes inferior. So ovary जब completely inferior हो जाती है, you can see them in the case of guava, cucumber, bitter gourd, and even in the case of ray florets of sunflower. So if you remember, you can always go and check out the previous link in the description box. So हमने पढ़ा था कि sunflower जो होता है, sunflower is going to be a inflorescence. So inflorescence जो होता है, वहाँ पे we had seen that in the center you are going to have smaller flowers which is going to make up the disc florets. So उसे क्या बोलेंगे, disc florets, and the outer ones, the yellow colored flowers that you see, those are going to be called as ray florets, right? So जो बाहर के yellow वाले होते हैं वो कौन होते हैं? Those are going to be the ray florets, and all those are going to make up your inflorescence that is found in the case of sunflower. So जो बाहर के outer bigger petals होते हैं और bigger flowers होते हैं, those are going to have the epigynous condition. So this was the little explanation about how the position of floral parts are going to describe or differentiate their types. So hypogynous हो गया, perigynous as well as epigynous. So I hope with the tricks and different points which are going to be important for MCQs उससे आपको help मिली होगी. And if you are liking these videos and it gives you help to understand these topics in much more better way, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our amazing channel. ऐसे ही वीडियोस और आते रहेंगे. बहुत सारे चैप्टर्स कवर हो चुके हैं. You can always go and check out those chapters on our channel. And for continuation with this chapter with us, stay connected till the time we come back soon. Keep studying, keep smiling. Till then, bye bye. Thank you.